said that the low registration from Airbnbs indicates that over 39,000 Airbnb hosts are non-compliant with the 2.0% tourism levy. To push for compliance, the fund indicated that they are working with Airbnb Africa to have all hosts on the platform registered. Well, that's going to be a hunt, a true hunt for the people that they need to look for. But this could mean that the fund might also explore ways to have the global homestay host platform deduct and remit the levy directly to the government. Now, homestay services have been on the rise in recent years as business and leisure travelers seek cheaper alternatives from hotels. Well, it's going to be quite something because everybody and their mother has an Airbnb. Because an Airbnb doesn't necessarily mean that you're a hotel that has to have plush pillows and chocolates and, bathroom slippers for you to qualify as an Airbnb. An Airbnb could be also just you who's living in your home. You need extra money, you have an extra room to share, somebody's traveling, don't want to stay in a hotel or can't afford it, they just come and rent out a space in your room. So, yeah, that may be kind of, it's got to be quite a task for them to go after all those Airbnb owners. And, more power to them. Now, of course, everybody's talking about fuel hike, fuel hike, fuel hike. And it's gone down into the halls of parliament. How crazy is that? Also, how sad is that? We are doomed when MPs are complaining, okay? Now, the MPs demanded suspension of parliament over fuel hike, and these are MPs from the ODM party. Now, Kilifi South MP Ken Chonga wants Parliament adjourned indefinitely until lawmakers find lasting solutions to the skyrocketing fuel prices that are just in the country. Now, speaking at the National Assembly on Tuesday, October 3rd, Chonga called on the legislators to halt all sessions and motions lined up for discussion to pay attention to the price hike, which increased the cost of living. Now, the ODM MP acknowledged that the hike in fuel prices may be attributed to global demand and supply chain, but argued that recent taxes on fuel further propelled the prices. One of the taxes he referred to was the doubling of the value-added tax on fuel from 8 to 16%. So, laying claims that fuel cost doesn't match the purchasing power of consumers, Chonga warned that consumers were struggling to make ends meet, and 40% taxation on fuel worsens the situation. I think. Now, they also believe that this demand will join the other calls for sustainable action towards fuel hikes since the last review by the Energy and Petroleum Authority, aka EPRA, on Thursday, September 14th. Now, you gotta wonder if they're complaining, what are we left to do? Now, immediately after the review, MPs demanded an explanation as to why the much-hyped government-to-government oil deal President William Ruto's administration signed with 3 foreign companies was yet to benefit consumers. MPs want the deal suspended, arguing that it has failed to cushion Kenyans, reduce the price of fuel, and ensure shillings against the dollar. Yes, MPs fight against the power. Okay, no, I'm joking. For real though, just for real, push on because we are truly, truly suffering. And remember, fuel, it affects every aspect of our life, whether it comes to electricity, it comes to the prices of export, import. It affects every facet of our lives. Literally, I was trying to get contacts yesterday because one of mine broke yesterday morning. And the guys at the opticians were telling me, yeah, the price has kind of doubled. And they were checking, they're like, that's life nowadays. It's become hard. I was like, Kwenda huko, what am I supposed to do with that? But yes, it even affects the opticians, okay? It's that bad. It's every facet of life has been affected by these fuel hikes. Now, to add on to that, Nairobi motorists have now officially found alternatives to this problem because now it found a lot of them ditching their cars to now go back to matatus. Yani, life has become that hard. It has humbled us that much. Now, after an extended period of leaving their vehicles idle at home due to the high cost of fuel, Nairobi residents have been compelled to resume using their cars because of the heavy rains. Based on the accounts of various Nairobi motorists, the time taken to maneuver and exit the CBD and join busy highways such as Thika Road, Mombasa Road has increased to 1 hour from an average of 15 minutes. Motorists Association of Kenya chairman Peter Murima noted that during the rainy season, some Kenyans are left stranded at the PSV as PSV opts to service high traffic areas. This, he observed, forces residents to find alternative means of commuting. He noted that heavy rains present opportunities for criminals to prey on unsuspecting passengers using public transport, leading to an increase in mugging. Additionally, a spike in road accidents are also witnessed during this period. Nonetheless, Murima lauded the national government's efforts to deploy Kenya Defense Forces countrywide ahead of the El Nino rains. He pointed out that school-going children will need to be protected during this period, hence the country needs all hands on deck. And I think sometime from next week, we'll be highlighting more about what El Nino is, what El Nino does, how to best prepare for it, because it's going to affect everything: school goers, work, transport, every facet of life. So how do we prepare for it? Remember the last time it happened in the 90s, and guys were stranded. Some people unfortunately lost their lives because they didn't know how best to combat the floods. So let's brace ourselves, let's prepare and get in the know in regards to El Nino. Now, we are going to go on a short break, and when we come back, I'll be telling you how we have become the darling of the United States, the teacher's pet, the best of the best. And of course, we're going to be taking in your requests between 9 and 10 a.m. So be sure to send in those requests. Remember, we're all about that dance hall Wednesdays, and we're going to be getting you whining in your seats. So stand by for that. For now, we go into the music. been all about that Dance Hall Wednesdays this hour. And of course, we've been delving into our Wellness Wednesday topic of the day, which is, of course, how we have dealt with our PTSD for our childhood. And that's how we were disciplined, how we were talked to, how we were raised. And of course, dealing with that, just those things you've been holding on to. We've listened to a few people who do remember how they grew up, how they were treated as children, and of course, as in like it's funny now, yes, for a lot of people, and that's how we managed to deal with things. But at the same time, it's hard to hear just, you know, what kind of memories you've been left with, what kind of thoughts you've been left with. How do you deal with it when it comes to your own children? How do you deal with it when it comes to raising your kids? Do you revert back to what your parents did, or do you find new ways of dealing with your children? Now, of course, there are ways to deal with childhood trauma. One of them is to recognize the trauma. The adult must acknowledge this certain childhood experience as trauma and, of course, embrace it. The best thing to do is say, Enyewe, I went through this. I recognize the problem I have, and I am willing to at least first admit. Admittance is the first step. Admittance is the first step, and then now you begin to deal with it, right? So recognize the trauma, and then accept it that it's okay. This will help them, rather you as an adult, give meaning to your current difficulties and make sense of your struggles. The other way is be patient with yourself. Self-criticism and guilt can be very common when it comes to adults who have lived through a traumatic childhood. Some people may ask, why do I act this way? What's wrong with me? I could have dealt with this in a better way. These thought patterns can lead to hopelessness and frustrations. The key here is to stop and think. You are not responsible for what happened. Your childhood trauma has left a scar, and you're trying your best to heal. But like all wounds, it's important to take the time to heal correctly. Be patient and loving with yourself. Treat yourself like you would a best friend. And finally, reach out for help. Rely on loved ones for emotional support and understanding. In these cases, one of the key components is feeling heard and understood and validated as well. Especially with childhood trauma, one can often feel alone and isolated. It's common to feel like no one will understand or empathize, but in reality, this couldn't be farther from the truth. If we give people a chance, they can become a great support system for us. We must not forget the importance of seeking help from a mental health professional who is trained in trauma treatment. A clinician can help heal these deep wounds to provide relationships, or rather improve relationships. They can help identify unhealthy patterns and coping mechanisms and improve your mental fitness. I hope that has helped you just understand yourself a little bit better and find ways into coping with childhood trauma. We should get into this conversation once again because there isn't enough time. There isn't enough time to deal with this and just delve into this topic. But thank you again so much for those who have chanted to the conversation. It's been great hearing and relating with you, because that's usually important, and knowing that you aren't alone, of course, but of course also how you have dealt with it. We're going to leave off with the voice notes once again, just to take a listen to it as we go into the next hour, of which we'll be having Base with Uncle R. That's between 10 and 12. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Tomorrow is all about that Adulting Thursdays. We're going into more about how you deal with situations as an adult. Keep it right here also on the ITAL Groove between 4 and 7 p.m. She's going to be having a special guest in studio. And of course, The Surge with myself, Hugh Skills, and Sky Lorena tonight. See you guys tomorrow. Have a blessed day ahead.
Worst experience. So I stole money from my mom, like a 5 bob coin that was on the table. Went and bought Patco, which was for you at that time. Bought 10 of them. I started, me and my kind heart, I started distributing it to everyone. The Jama who sells makeup were outside, my sister, and then foolish me, I gave my mom. I was given the harshest beating I have ever seen up to now. I was beaten with the flat side of a panga. And from that day, I learned thieving is bad.
Hello. Mimi nilikuwa mnoma sana at my teenage time. Mamangu alikuwa ananichunga. So siku moja akaniambia niwekelee ndengu kwa njiko. Nikawekelea ndengu na hiyo siku nilikuwa na date. Na kulikuwa na a certain point tulikuwa tunapimit na mjamaa kwa njia. Nikaangalia tu amefika. Na mimi naye nikaacha zile ndengu. Kakimbia kumit my man. Mamangu kutoka sokoni akakuta ndengu zimeungua. Nilichapwa ile kichapo sijaiona after nimerudi saa moja. That was the day nilikutana na fight.
First time I saw popcorn seeds, the maize things. My mom told us not to make them. She'll come and make them for us in the afternoon. So in the morning we saw it's taking too long, so we decided to do it, and we didn't know how it is done. The sufuria became black. That is the day. Kiboko matako iko na keti chini.
We wanted to go out. That was the first time we were going out because it was classic Cleaver's Bash. So my best friend, Bolel, you know yourself, came with a matatu and picked me up with a round of his boys. We went around picking up all my friends. We went to Wisty. We had a fun time coming back home. I thought I would sneak in the way I usually sneak in, only to find my father very much awake in the sitting room waiting for me. Ile kiboko nilipata. I've never seen my body swell up in seconds. Niliundwa na anything they could reach. Dustpan, mguu ya piano, mwiko, name it, niliundwa. I have never felt so much pain in my life.